Thank you so much, each and every one of you, for coming to share this evening with us tonight in the foundation. It is so special. It's really difficult to convey how special it is to have Christina with us from Mexico. So I'm sure that every one of you will have something to say, and I've had the pleasure of Lee have an insight into tonight, and it is amazing. So what I'd like to do first of all is introduce our business advisor, Brenda Evans, who is going to be the MC for this evening. So just give it a
I don't know whether you should be clapping already. Wait till the night's over. So what my role tonight is to just help to keep it going, and we have a number of people stepping up here. The first thing is just a bit of housekeeping. So if you could please turn all your phones to silent, I'd appreciate that for the benefit of the speakers. And toilets, as you go down the corridor, they're on, the gentlemen's are first on your right, and then the ladies are a bit further on. And after the speech that Christine will do for you tonight, we're going to have questions. So if you can save all your questions till after the presentation. And I have a lovely little, thanks Georgie. Georgie is going to then move around the room to take the mic so you can ask questions. Because I think it's a great opportunity while Christine is here doing this presentation for us, and we're very fortunate. Any questions you have, because I'm sure you'll have plenty, please ask her, because she's very happy to take questions. Thank you. So I think the first thing I'd like to do is hand the mic back to Penny, because I think now we're going to introduce our wonderful guest speaker for tonight. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Brenda. Can you hear me better now? Yes. Yes, thank you. I first will give you a little insight into the story of how I connected with Christina. Way back in 2008, I was in Mexico City with the International Women's Congress, the Business and Professional Women, and we were going through to different workshops at the Congress, and I happened to be the person to go to one that was for Say No to Violence, which I didn't really get excited about the idea, but nobody else had gone, and I thought we might learn something. In a space of 15 minutes, because there were 4 speakers and they each had 15 minutes, Christina was the 4th. It was so profound, it changed my life, as I'm standing here now. And I cannot thank Christina enough. And along the way, we've shared so much, we've become so close. But in saying that, Christina gifted what we are using here, this Liberty of Being Me Foundation, its message, its ethos, its materials. She gifted it to us to bring to New Zealand. And we are still learning, and we will always be learning with it, because it's not something you can put in a box. But all I can share with you is my own story. And from 2009, when she first came here, and we have a wonderful guest, Dawn. Where are you, Dawn Hancock? Dawn was with me at the very first presentation, and I'm so happy you were here tonight. Thank you. We just kept going step by step, and we were trained as facilitators, and I've only just, in the last 3 weeks ago or 2, trained my first of myself, and we have some of you here tonight, which will introduce you later. But it's been an amazing journey, and what this program is totally about awareness. Awareness for each of us to take what we want and discover ourselves. It's as simple and as difficult as that. And it is a roller coaster ride, but I would never go back now. And I'm sure you're going to get insight after Christina has spoken. We are still going forward. We have a lot of work to do, and we will do it. And I can't thank Christina enough that she has walked this walk way before I started, but we are also walking together. So every time I get into a space of fear or I'm discovering something about myself, she's there, like my guardian angel, to pick me up and guide me through, because she's been there herself. So I'm so honoured that she is here for the 5th time tonight in New Zealand. This is her 5th visit, and we are still growing with this, and who knows where it's going to go. Christina, would you like to
There's too much love. Oh boy. Voy a dar mi presentación en español. ¿Están listos? Let me tell you what I'm going to do today, which is basically different what I've done in the past. I'll go back a little bit in my history. When I was 37, I decided to I was working in advertising, I was a restaurateur, I was doing a bunch of different things, and I decided to make a career change and start to study psychology. I did a master's, a doctorate, and while I was in that program and started to give therapy, I realized there was a lot of need. Living in Mexico City, there was a lot of need. I noticed in the community there's lots of things that people needed. And I thought, you know, if Mexicans could have a little bit more self-esteem and love for themselves, they can just probably step out of many situations that they're in, violence, poverty, negativity. So I thought, God, wouldn't it be fantastic to create something around self-esteem? And you know, you're thinking of others, right? Our eyes go outwards, they don't tend to look at yourself. So this has a lot to do with what I'm going to talk about today. So I met people at Dove. Do you know what Dove, the cream, the soaps? They have a social mission to help young girls have a better self-esteem and body confidence, because the impact of the media, all the stereotypes of media are so harsh, and they're bombarded that when they compare themselves in the mirror to what they're seeing in magazines is so different from what they look, that it's very difficult for them to reach their maximal potential. They have they seem to hold back and a lot of complex, and they don't want to. Well, you know what, I'm speaking a bit of Spanish. Do you get, you can see that? I don't do conferences in English, it's amazing. And anyway, so basically they're limiting themselves in life because they don't feel comfortable with their body. 9 out of 10 women don't feel comfortable about their body. Only 4% of women are comfortable describing themselves as beautiful. And 6 out of 9 girls, or 6 out of 10 girls feel that their body limits them from having a boyfriend or a good relationship or being popular. So it's a big issue, and Dove on a global level has tried to create a lot of programs, and I run the program in Mexico. And mothers are the person who has the most influence on their daughters with their self-esteem and body confidence. So a lot of the material and a lot of the work is done around mothers to inspire them, to strengthen them, so they can have a closer bond with their daughters. So their daughter's self-esteem goes up and have a better body confidence. So basically that's what I do in Mexico, and I met Penny 4 years ago. Well, 5 years ago, and rather than talking about the problems of violence or whatever, I just basically went straight in 15 minutes and talked about love for yourself, and valuing yourself would help eradicate a lot of social problems. So that's where we began talking and sharing, and that's where our partnership began. Okay, so I'm going to start with what happened in 2008. I opened Amara Fundación por Autoestima in 2008, and Amara means eternal beauty, eternal love. And we got donated Dove, and they asked us to reach 48,000 lives through conferences and workshops, mother-daughter conferences and workshops. So it was an amazing first year. And then the following year, they gave us double the money and said, please reach 75,000 girls and women with conferences and workshops. So we were just going nuts. And the next year, 90, and then the next year, 100,000. So we were 3 people reaching lives and lives and lives through alliances with associations, communities, with the military bases. We worked with a lot of military families and the women to empower them as well, because they went through a lot of difficulties with the drug problem in Mexico. So it's like basically a war inside the country, and they're losing a lot of their men and soldiers trying to fight the war against drugs. So it's a difficult time in Mexico, and we've had a lot of success doing this. So what it says here is impulsar a los seres humanos a reconocer su propio valor. Our mission vision is that people recognize their personal value. That's what we want to do in Amana. And we've been operating the Dove Self-Esteem Fund, which helps inspire women and girls to develop a positive relationship with their beauty, elevate their self-esteem, and so that they can reach the maximum potential. Okay? Until today, we have reached more than 5,000 lives through conferences and workshops in Mexico. And I also sit on the global board of the Dove Self-Esteem Fund, which is based in London. So it's really incredible to see what's happening on a global basis and how the girls in China are suffering, and in Africa, and in different areas in the world, and how they're, suffering with this whole stereotypes of beauty, which are affecting how they see themselves and what they're achieving in life. So, but I'm not going to talk about that, because I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, which is something I don't usually do. I go around and give conferences about self-esteem and body confidence and the impact of the media and girls, and I rattle off all these wonderful statistics. And I just decided to do something different for Penny. And this is something I realized about a year ago, or this last year, that I stopped and reflected, why am I here in this life running a self-esteem foundation and running a global project on beauty confidence, body confidence, self-esteem, beauty? What does that have to do with me? Because we look out in the world and say, God, I want to help with this, and I really feel that people need this, and a lot of times we don't realize it has a lot to do with ourselves. And this is what I realized this year. So there's a picture of me when I'm 3 years old. That's Christina with her thick glasses, her short little hair. And I remember when I was a little girl, I'd run up to my mom. First of all, I would wear towels on my hair. She'd cut my hair because I have curly hair. She'd cut it. And so I would put towels on my hair, and I'd go like this to pretend I have long hair to be beautiful, because I felt like a little boy. And so I'd run up to my mom and I said, Mommy, 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 am I beautiful? And my mom would turn to me and say, you're not beautiful, you're interesting. So, okay, there's my first message. And I remember going to my first ballet class when I was 3 years old. And I walked in, with my little tutu and my little belly and my short little hair. And I walked into the ballet room, and I looked at all the girls with long hair, a perfect little French chignon. How do you say the bun? The perfect bun, with big button black eyes. And there comes Christina coming. I said, Jesus, I don't look like anyone else here. I'm 10 years old, and I'm in a French school. I was born in Montreal. This is the best thing. We run out in the récréation, which means, yes, we run out in the récréation, which means, not halftime, what's it called when you have break? Lunchtime. And I was in a French school, girl and boys school, and one of the coolest, best attractive, four boys decided to play a game. And the game was that the boys were going to run after the girls and give them a kiss. Oh, I thought that was the best game ever. So I stood in the first line, with my glasses, my short little hair, with my girlfriends, just waiting to find out about this game. And so the four boys were like organizing the rules and this, that, and the other. They were really cool. And then they huddled. They were kind of looking at everyone, like 40 or 50. And they huddled. They made a couple of decisions. And they came out and they said, there's only 2 people who can't play this game. And I'm sitting going, okay. And there was one black girl. She was the daughter of the ambassador of Algeria, Algerie. And they lifted their finger and they pointed to her, said, you can't play. And so she turned around and walked away and sat down. And then there's somebody else who's not going to be able to play this game. Lifted the hand and pointed at me. Because of your glasses, you're ugly, 4 eyes, you can't play. So I walked out, and those kind of experiences in life, and many, many others, obviously start to have an effect on you, and start to shape the perception or the idea of yourself. So there I began my journey And how do we adapt to that? How do we function when we have messages like that bombarding us when we're little? We all have our stories. Now, how do we respond to that? And this is how I responded to that. Oops. I did a lot of work to receive love. I became funny, I danced, I laughed, I performed. I tried to compensate by being the most charming, loving, funny person around. But at the end of the day, I was performing. And I was performing to receive love. And I found out I became an expert on pleasing. Pleasing my mom, pleasing my dad, pleasing my friends. That was what I started to become really good at. I said, Christina is so, what a nice woman, or what a nice person. Because I became an expert at pleasing. An expert. So I ask you guys, how do you please others and receive love? Or how, in your childhood, what mechanisms did you invent or organize to receive love or be accepted? An interesting to think about. We don't want to go back there. It's kind of painful to some. But I don't know why at the age of 47 I started to consider this in this last year. It's something I never actually thought about. Why am I on top of the stage? Why am I giving thousands of conferences and speaking to thousands of people? Well, probably because I was prepared for this, being a great performer. But what happened in my life as you perform? I think you kind of lose your true essence. And I became such a good performer that I did lose touch with myself. And one of the most difficult experiences in my life is that I married a very abusive man. I married a Mexican, not to the he's Mexican, but I got married, I went to Mexico, I was 27, and I wasn't really sure why it was so difficult. Why was this person so mean to me? Why was he so difficult? And I hear people always saying, I remember, marriage is difficult. Marriage is really difficult. Thinking, oh, maybe this is what marriage is like. Maybe I'm doing so many things wrong. Maybe I have to learn. There's something wrong with me. So I remember calling my brother, my dear brother John, and I said, John, I don't know if marriage is difficult or if it's supposed to be this difficult. I'm really confused. I'm plus alone in a country where I didn't have my family there, friends or whatever. So what do I do with this? And he said, oh, Christine, it's very simple. Take a calendar out, and at the end of your day, you write a happy face if you had a great day with your husband. And if you had a sad day or a difficult day, you put a sad face. And at the end of the month, you count out how many you have and you make a decision. Isn't that nice? He's a finance guy. This is awesome. Because, your wedding friend, they get all dramatic and whatnot, and he was just very practical. So I started to put sad face, sad face, sad face, sad face, and I didn't need to finish the month to realize that there was something severely wrong. So from that, it was my difficult journey to try to separate from that codependent, difficult relationship. It was very difficult, but I got out when I was 32. So from 27 to 32, I went through a very difficult time. And of course, I learned. And this is probably the most difficult thing that I was confronted with. I knew that in all the patients that I was treating, there was always this kind of message at the bottom of any story that they tell, like this feeling that they weren't good enough. And I could resonate with that because all my stories, all my successes, all my feels, is at something at the bottom where I feel I'm just not good enough. But guess what? I opened up a self-esteem foundation. Great. I start to have success. I'm reaching thousands of people. I'm starting to pump myself out and become really proud of myself. And I suddenly realize that I'm a fraud. Because I'm promoting self-esteem, I'm giving examples of body confidence and whatever, but at the end of the day, that little 3-year-old girl, that 10-year-old girl still is there. And I've been helping a lot of people, giving them great messages, but at the end of the day, how is my self-esteem really? So it was one of the most difficult things to stand up and realize, Jesus, is my self-esteem any better? No? Am I a fraud? why would somebody who struggled so much with their own self-esteem, be running a self-esteem foundation? Shouldn't it be somebody else? Shouldn't it be somebody else with self-esteem, a fantastic self-esteem and body confidence that doesn't have the story that I have? So that was really difficult for me to battle with. What do you guys think? Do you think it's a fraud if somebody has struggled with their self-esteem to be a director of a big foundation? No. Why?
You have a better insight.
Because you have a better insight?
Pretty normal.
Oh, okay. Because somebody said there's a man saying something.
It's pretty normal.
Because it's what?
It's normal.
It's normal.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure about that. If this was, it makes sense, you have empathy, you connect with people when you have similar issues. If I go to a rural community in Mexico and we talk about self-esteem with women that have been abused and have lived a difficult life, I really don't feel very different. I have this empathy, so you connect with a lot of human suffering that you wouldn't normally do. So you realize, okay, I get it, I can be empathetic, but it's one of the most difficult things that I have to come across with and have to deal with. And realize, can I be in this position? ¿Cómo se dice en español? Soy digna. Do I deserve to be in this place? And another thing that I learned is as you become a great performer and you're pleasing others, the one thing that I realized that a lot of my dreams, my desires, my needs, I never put any focus on them. I worried about everyone else. I had a partner who, at 13 years I was with him, he already had 3 kids, and I told him, I convinced him, I don't need to have my own children, your children are enough. And much later on, when I was 45, I realized that was the biggest mistake, that I would have really loved him. But I was connecting with his needs, with his desires, and flowing, because, Jesus, if I don't do this, I won't be loved. So I gave up a lot of things, which the scary part is you don't realize you're giving them up. Because you're smart, you convince yourself, oh, this is great. If I had children, I wouldn't have this great international job, and I would be traveling all over the place, and I wouldn't have the success. You start to convince yourself, and one day you realize you're also a fraud with your own needs. And that's very difficult when you come into that wall. And I realized what it was. We always talk about my mother abandoned me, my father abandoned me, my spouse abandoned me, or whatever, and I realized the most difficult thing to realize is that you abandoned yourself, or I abandoned myself. And my needs didn't matter. And then I wondered, why am I always smiling, but inside of myself I'm really angry? And I'm hiding this anger, and I'm just putting it as deep as I can, obviously. Because when we do not put limits, go after what we want, we end up becoming really angry on the inside. And that will, affect us. Are you guys getting depressed? That's not my... Yes, is it depressing a little bit? No? Do you kind of empathize? Yeah? Yeah, it's kind of a human thing, isn't it? I don't think I'm any different from anybody else, but I just, unfortunately, had to live this in front of lots of people. It's just like right in my face. So that's one of the most... And so what do you do when you realize that you abandon yourself and you abandon your needs? It takes so much courage to stop and say, oh my, what do I really want? First, to figure out what you really actually do want and not as what other people want. That is a really difficult step to make because you get confused. You're not really sure what's me or what somebody else is expecting of me. So that's really tough to figure out really what you want. And the way that I figured it out is that I daydream a lot. And one day I decided, I don't have to daydream. I can actually go and get that when I'm dreaming. If I'm daydreaming, it's because I feel I will never get it, like a kid who's daydreaming about going to Walt Disney. No, I'm an adult now. I can go to Walt Disney if I dream about it. So you kind of realize that's actually what I want. When I daydream is what I want. That's how I figured that one out. Patience. Jesus, is it hard to have patience and to breathe, barely breathe right now, and to be honest. I was with somebody for 13 years, and a really lovely person in a wonderful comfort zone, and it was really hard for me to say, you know what, none of what I'm living is really what I want. And I have to say goodbye to somebody and their family, and I might hurt these people, but I really need to go after what I want, and I can't feel guilty. Guilt is one of the worst things that I have to deal with. Because when you give to others, when you decide to bring it back and start to give to yourself, you feel like you're selfish maybe, you feel like you're doing something wrong, other people get angry with you, so it's a very different kind of switch. It's not easy to do. And obviously you have to become self-aware. You have to be kind with yourself and patient with yourself. You need to have compassion. So those are kind of the elements or the qualities you need to tap into when you're making this change. Some people take several lifetimes to reach this, or maybe in one lifetime, or in 1 year, or maybe in 1 minute. I don't know, everybody is different. Or some people never get to be able to do this. And this is another thing that I found extremely challenging. The word vulnerability. What does that mean to you guys, vulnerability? To be vulnerable. To be exposed. That's a positive thing, open. I kind of thought that vulnerability was weakness. And to be vulnerable was something that is not allowed, not in my family. We have to be strong and smile and go forward, to show somebody that I'm scared, to say to somebody that I'm angry, to say to somebody that I don't believe in myself. To be vulnerable and honor my emotions was one of the most difficult things for me to do because it made me feel ashamed. Shame is something really difficult because if you project a persona of strength and personality, whatever, and you actually on the inside feel completely differently, it's shameful. I remember when I really had to make an effort to say to somebody I'm sad and cry in front of a close friend. It was very difficult for me because the only feeling that I got was shame. I felt shameful to feel that vulnerable. But I realized one amazing thing about being vulnerable is that you give yourself permission to feel. And this is the coolest thing that I learned. The more I'm vulnerable and the more I feel, the more I connect with people, my family members, my friends, patients, anyone, I connect. And the biggest complaint of most people is that most people feel lonely. They can be in a room full of people or in a marriage with 5 children and they come to me and say, I feel lonely. I'm completely by myself. It hurts. What do I do with this? And people say, oh, you need to have your spiritual path or connect with God. And there's all these kind of ideas. No, you need to do more things to make you happy. And we run around and have a good bottle of wine. Or we go and travel. Or we eat some stuff ourselves with some amazing food. And then you get it and then it's gone. And we feel lonely again. Christmas is a great example. You get all excited for Christmas. And then you're there sitting at Christmas dinner and something horrible, this happens to me, just comes over me. There's like this, oh, this isn't right. I don't feel good here. You know? And so, so that is what I learned, which is the most beautiful thing, is that through this vulnerability, you really connect. And when we have judgment, when we judge somebody, he is like this, or she's like that, or I don't like her for this, the only thing that it does is it separates us from others. And we really live separate. And we could try to connect through our Facebooks and we try to connect, but it's so difficult to just be in peace and be present and connect. But you actually have to be vulnerable to be able to connect. And that's something that they don't teach us. Your mother doesn't sit down with you and say, sweetheart, I'm really happy if you're vulnerable. Son, my dear son, be vulnerable, and that is going to be the success of your life. Of course, no. Have anyone ever advised us to do that? Be open, be vulnerable, connect. That will be your happiness in life. That's not at all what anybody communicates in the media or in your family. What do they tell us? What makes us happy? What are we told happiness is? Oh, that's so easy. Money. I don't know what. Sex? What? Sex? What do they say? Possessions. What if I find the right guy, now I'm going to be happy. When I have my first kid, now it's going to be done. When I find the perfect job, when I make this much money, when I buy the house, that... And it's like a carrot that we're running after, and we're running after. And we lose connection with ourselves and others as we try to run after all these things. Okay. So the most difficult thing after that little girl with her thick glasses, and I remember, Andrew Nemec, I loved him so much. He was my brother's friend, my older brother, and his friend. And one day we were in the station wagon, you know those great station wagons, and I was sitting in the back, and with my brother and all his friends, and I was in love with all of them. And Andrew Nemec turned around. He was so cute. He was a rugby player. And he turned around and looked at me, and he says, "Christina, you're pretty." And so I went, I went like that. And he goes, "Ugly." So those kind of things are really difficult. So you have one message, and another message, and another message, and then to turn around over life and work really hard and looking in the mirror and saying from an honest, heartful perspective and say, I am beautiful, inside and out, I am lovable, my needs are important, is one of the most difficult, and I'm still working on it, is one of the most difficult things that I've had to do. And it makes sense now, because if I have a self-esteem foundation, that's actually what I'm supposed to do, right? And so I don't have to feel like a fraud anymore. So I'm really happy about that, because I'm actually doing the work, little by little, step by step. I'm challenged every day, but it puts me in a place where I'm really receiving this, which is the best gift of all, which is that I feel a joy of life that is amazing. Looking at a flower, or a baby, or looking at people in the airport, or experiencing what I'm experiencing here with Penny. It's just this incredible joy of life. Even the sad parts, even the challenging parts are joyful. So that's what I learned in this journey, having a self-esteem foundation. That's what I wanted to share with you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Has anyone got any questions for Christine? Georgie will wander around and take questions. Please feel free. Come on, I'll have a prize for the first one.
Why not? I'm pretty loud, actually. I don't
Yes!
Yeah, podcasts are great. Are there any podcasts that you know of or recommend, or that you do yourself, to do with this kind of stuff?
There is a DVD that we did in 2009, a little bit earlier, later on you're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
But I'm also a little shy. There's a shy part of me, so I haven't really done it. Like, I give more content information when I do interviews and whatever. I don't, but it's something that I, probably be interested in if I start doing. Yeah. Thank you.
I think I'm quite loud too. Hello, Christina.
Hi.
Hi. I think what you're saying is that you went on a journey of believing that you weren't whatever. And if we can turn that around and say, rather than believe and then achieve or conceive, and that way if you think of the words believe, achieve, conceive, if you can conceive something first, if you can educate to conceive then you achieve, and then belief comes last.
Mhm.
So that's my offering. It's not a question, but I think that's really important to teach people to conceive an idea and work on achieving. And
Or
then
maybe
the
it's not
belief
even
follows.
linear, maybe it happens at the same time.
Yes.
I think it's all the three at the same time. Thank you.
I've got a question. Work with some adolescent girls in schools. And I mean, this is like, you know, it's obviously a common thing amongst adolescent girls is to kind of feel this way. So how, you know, I think about it all the time and I'm doing some research on it at the moment, but how do you, in a very short time that you, can you hear me now? Just like, I mean, we spend an hour a week or something with these young girls in a very short time. How do you explain that? Because you can tell them to you in the face, like, you're beautiful, you're worthy. But they've been bombarded with all that stuff and with their families, you know, how do you as a mentor, someone just be able to feed in their life some of that stuff?
Actually, there's a website called Self-Esteem.com, I think. It's the Dove they've launched in the last couple of months. A website where you can click on as a mom, as a teacher, or as a mentor, and you get all this information, courses, articles, which it's actually, they have an incredible program they're going to launch in a couple of months, where you can go and get 6-hour classes on whole body confidence. It challenges the idea of the perfect look. It's very proactive. It's scientifically proven that it makes a shift in the kids and their body confidence goes up. So it's amazing, the stuff that you can get off that website, which has nothing to do with now the Dove. They used to have it in the Dove, you know, the social mission, you can get all the information. Now they have a special website. It's really oriented on that your girl comes on with you, or a girl, or if you're a mentor, a girl or your daughter comes on with you and start to work on the different videos and articles. And so it's really amazing to challenge exactly that, and it's proven that it changes the girl's idea. It's very, very, you know, if you're a teacher, it's like the best thing. Because it is very hard. I'm so out of breath. What's going on? It's this vulnerable thing.
It's beautiful. Why is it we're so obsessed with the visual part of things? What is it because we're very much bombarded by visual media now? If you think about it, you know, TV, videos, far more so than, say, somebody 100 years ago.
Out of all the 5 senses, there's a 6th sense as well, but all the 5 senses, the one that's used the most is the visual. More than touch. Obviously, in our culture, do we use touch? No. Smell. Help me with the other ones. Touch, smell, taste, hearing. We basically mostly focus on the visual. And of all the senses, it's the most that is altered. You can't even count on it. You know, one day you look and you see one thing, the next time you look, you see something else. So it's the most, a smell doesn't do that. Touch doesn't do that. But the visual is the most engañoso. What's engañoso? Engañoso, it's tricky. It's an illusion. So that's why it's so challenging, and that's what we use. And of course, we live in a world of visual stimulation.
And of course, a lot of it isn't actually true. You know, these models don't even look like that.
This is our world. Our world is digital, visual. We don't live in a mountain. We don't live in an ashram where everything is intuitive and whatever. That's just the challenge of our world today. And as women, beauty is one of the values that are most, you know, so that's a very challenging visual beauty. It's a hard one for us. As we get older, there's a phenomenon called the fat talk. Young girls go on and on and on, and they're completely connected to something called the fat talk. And after a certain age, there's the old talk. The wrinkle in this and that. It's something that a lot of women, all women, suffer with. Right? Correct? Yes. So.
When you said old.
No, I did not. No, you just really did not. That's enough. I didn't go in all the. There's incredible statistics with all of that stuff, but I just that's another conference. That's another conference.
I'm just curious about a lot of the girls that I've worked with, because I work as a mentor as well, and in my previous internships and things, I've noticed that obviously it has a lot to do with the boys' perceptions of the girls as well. And I know the boys also struggle with self-esteem and things like that. And I'm just curious whether or not there's programs coming out to work with that gender problem, and also just with the boys' struggle with self-esteem as well.
The DOV tools, the educational tools, are co-ed for boys and girls between the age of 11 and 14, which is the time where they are struggling with their body confidence. And boys are bombarded also with stereotypes and beauty that are just, the abs and the whole thing is just devastating also to boys and their self-esteem. Yeah.
I can do that.
Two questions. First one is, what do you think is the main cause of this? The lack of confidence in body, fear about, lack of esteem and so on. And the other one was, does the company, are they reflecting these values in their advertising themselves?
They have a real beauty campaign, meaning that they want their core messaging for their brand, which is really beautiful, is they want beauty to be a source of empowerment rather than anxiety. Beauty usually with women is a place of dissatisfaction, of complaints, pain, and so Doug really promotes that. They don't use models, they use real people. They don't use Photoshop. They're really against Photoshop because with the Photoshop they alter everything and people are looking at ideals that don't even exist. You will never find someone looking like that. And so it's bombarded. And so I think that we're in a very difficult time. The media and advertising is very difficult for women to, you don't see anybody over 50 in the advertising. Men, yes, women, no. Like it's just, if you really actually have a critical eye and observe what's going on, there are ideals that are placed in the media that are just not even real, very difficult. Of the perfect man, of the perfect woman, of the perfect look, of the and it's unconsciously affecting, globally a lot of women. So that's one thing with the beauty issue. And self-esteem, I think, self-esteem was coined in the 70s. We didn't have that word. No one knew what that was, in the 60s, 50s. I don't know what my parents, if my mother reflected on her self-esteem. I couldn't say, but I just know that it's, yeah? Oh, do you want to share about self-esteem? I don't know. It's something new. It's something that we think about. My dad is Hungarian, my parents are Hungarian from the war. I mean, they never thought about anything like that. So what's happening in our times? I think in our times we're just much more connected with emotions, with feelings. It's a good question. I don't know. But it's certainly what most people talk about. This desire for happiness. I don't think my dad ever thought about happiness. Happiness, satisfaction, a joy of life. These are what people are looking for. The young people that are working, going into the workforce, are wondering when their holidays are, what time that they're finishing work, because they want to have a life balance. Did our generation just ask that when we went for a job? Did we think about our balance, our joy, our pleasure, our hobbies? It's just a shift, I think. What do you think? Do you think that could be? Yeah, I don't know.
I think this whole idea of self-esteem has emerged out of times when it was something that people didn't think about.
Yeah.
Because the media wasn't promoting these images and so on. But I just said something on TV last night where a guy was in a small town and he was talking about how he empties himself, in his way, they empty themselves at work until they make sure they have enough spare time for themselves out. Whereas we never thought about that. So he's got that balance between emptying and full.
It's really interesting. And people are really concerned about that, and the world is changing. And I also think that self-esteem is a feminine quality, not a gender thing, but it's a quality of love, connection, compassion. And we come from a very masculinized society of 2,000 years of patriarchy where it was success, aggressiveness, all the different qualities. It's not about men and women, it's just this masculine stuff. And so I think that what's happening is a shift to much more feminine, the boys are coming out differently, I went into a coffee shop and there were two 13-year-old boys having coffee and chatting. And I thought, they're communicating, they're talking, they're not, what is going on? So there's new there's a need for communication. It's amazing, things are changing. So I think it's more feminine qualities are coming over, and self-esteem is something that limits love and union. And I think we're looking for that globally. peace. You know, it sounds corny, but that's basically what's happening. Yeah?
Christina, could you perhaps let the audience know a little bit about the self-esteem course for the mothers and daughters? What we're achieving and what you expect from it?
Penny, when we were talking and when we first met, I was telling her about all our projects, and one of my favorite ones was the mother-daughter projects. And we're bringing it into the community, in rural communities, where there's a lot of violence and a lot of difficulties, and the women are, you know, the second-class citizens after the goat and the sheep and the whatnot. And what we were doing is, we're not talking about violence, we're not talking about anything. All we do is say, okay, you guys are valuable, you're important, you need to communicate and strengthen the bond with your daughter. And the psychologists in those communities were coming back and saying, I don't know what's going on, but these women that have taken your workshop after 3 hours are putting a stop. The daughter and the wife are putting a stop to the violence. 3 of them have kicked their husbands out of the... and so things were like happening, and we never even mentioned that word. That's what I think that what Penny thought was really interesting. And then she goes, we need that in New Zealand. We need to strengthen our mother-daughter bond. You know, and the closer the mother-daughter bond is, the self-esteem rises in the mother and the daughter. They become strengthened, they become nurtured, there's a better communication, there's a union. And so that is what Penny kind of just said, this is amazing, let's do this. And so that's how we started. And that's what Penny has created here with her great team, is promoting these mother-daughter workshops. And it's been also very successful here. But you guys will talk more about that, right? Yep. Yes.
I just wanted you to make the link. You know, I seen this little girl with big glasses and a short curly, and that's so mean. Cutting it because it's really. And
it was very practical.
Yeah, you felt it was. Yeah, there was something there about that. You know, that whole school that experience that we had with self-esteem. Somehow, right at the stage of our treatment. I just like to make that connection.
The connection
From that little girl
to me?
Yeah.
She's with me all the time.
Yes,
Okay, what, that's okay. I guess the message that I was left with, or the opinion of myself, is the most important thing to analyze when you're a kid. What was your true opinion of yourself? And my opinion of myself, which is the only one that you can control, and it's the way I interpret the messages I receive, because they're neutral. Messages are neutral. It's how I interpret them. It's like two sisters that lived in the same house, and when they tell their story about their parents, they tell them completely different. It's like they're talking about two different parents, because the messages that they received are very different, are interpreted differently. So the way I interpreted were two very strong messages. One, I'm stupid because my parents spoke to me in Hungarian, I was in Montreal and I went to French schools, and I was in the English neighborhood, so I couldn't get my languages right, so academically I failed, so I'm stupid. And two, I'm ugly. So that's the perception that you have of yourself, and that's how you start walking in life. And then it makes you shameful to actually have those feelings of yourself, so what I did was I covered it up and became smiley and attractive and seductive, or whatever the hell I invented to keep going. And that's where it begins. You start to not see the real you, which has all this. It's really not your real you, but you have to start first there, of how you really truly feel about yourself, which is actually false, because we are not stupid, we are not ugly, we're not, but you have to start there, and then you go through that, and you realize that you are worthy of, and you're beautiful, and whatever, and then you start honestly walking, and that has an impact on your life. A mask always destroys many things. You know, putting on a persona. Does that mean? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah, the little girl comes back and visits. Yeah, she went on the journey, but she's still like 3 years old and still gets pretty upset when doesn't get the attention she needs and whatever. So I have to keep her like under control. She can get really upset and demanding. But we all have our adolescent inside ourselves, our little child inside our that acts up and you go, God, wait a minute, I'm 47 years old. Why am I behaving this way? What the hell I was going, how embarrassing is this? And I was, oh, there she is, curly haired little rascal.
Christina, what about, what's your, it's okay, I'm quite loud.
Oh, good.
I'm European.
Very
I'm
good.
European.
Vegan.
Yes. So, how about, what's your opinion on, I'm a mother of a 35-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Girl.
Mm-hmm.
So, there is a time in life, I guess, that sometimes it's got nothing to do with your upbringing, with your childhood and what you've been told. Because in some cases it just happens later in life.
Yeah.
The issues with the self-esteem, and they don't always just come up as something that you have put aside, but they just happen later in life as part of certain circumstances.
It's going to get you.
Well,
but
you
know, it gets you later. I'm always going to get you.
It's okay. It's both ways. Like I grew up in a different times. I grew up as a very beautiful child, beautiful girl, excellent at school, perfect almost child. So I never had issues with self-esteem. No. Same with my daughter. That's how I raised her. And on top of that, I have a background. I come from an artistic family, so being vulnerable is a quality in our family. We consider it a huge quality. That's how you go forward. And we consider vulnerability honesty. But then, growing up, when she was in other places, other circumstances, where people don't consider that as quality, it did not, at a certain point, did not help my daughter all the background and the base that she had. Sometimes you
I think we're here to evolve.
Yeah.
And we're to have more consciousness. So if everything comes perfect, then what's the purpose of being here?
Yeah.
So we get challenged through illness, through losing something, or being taken from one country and next and losing all your roots and your identity. It can come in different ways. This was my experience of, I would say, a spiritual awakening, without using that word, but basically that's what it is. And finding to walk closer to love. I know it sounds really, but I think we all have different ways of getting there. We're experiencing challenges. But it's true. Some people don't, right? Some people go through life very, I don't know.
Yeah, but
some
they
people
do get challenged. That's what I want to say. Sometimes they do get challenged at certain point.
Yeah.
And they also get shaken very badly.
Yeah.
No matter the foundation.
Yes. Yeah. Sure. Yes. Hi.
Thank you for your amazing talk. I thought it was very inspiring for myself as a 27-year-old man. But I just have some, I was just wondering your thoughts on, from what I gathered of your talk, I got a lot from there, not just self-esteem, but also looking at traditional gender roles that we see in society, and what I see as this evolving gender roles where we see women who are now in traditional leading roles, like positions of power and politics, companies and stuff. But also at the same time, the most influential aspect, especially in my little sister's life, is hip hop music.
Yeah.
And which is an area where women dominate as well, but at the same time they're portrayed as highly sexualized objects and objects of desire and completely untamable and turned off.
Yeah.
And but their whole conflicting idea of they're also portrayed as empowered women.
It's kind of psychotic, isn't it?
So like what's your thoughts on like that double-edged sword of both empowerment and objectification of women?
I really do think that that's in the world of media and in consumerism and selling things, and it's there's an amazing, you would love this, there's an amazing documentary called Misrepresentation. Okay, and this woman also did one for men and talking about male gender roles, but she was saying that 11%, there's only 11% of directors in Hollywood that have a women perspective. So the media, the newscast, it's all a male-generated perspective, and that's the reason they think that women are just portrayed in movies. They're all portrayed as sexy. It's just the same portrayal of women, so which is not real, obviously, in our real world. But what I really find with this whole gender thing, I think that what's going to happen is it's not going to be a female thing or a male thing. It's going to be inclusive. We are going to be hopefully liberated to experience as a man sensitivity and strength, and just inclusive of all the qualities of both the genders, the masculine and feminine, and both of them being equal in each human being. I think that's probably what we're getting. We're balancing ourselves out. I think that's what's happening. But the media, I don't understand the media. they make a lot of money though. So whatever they're doing, I don't know. But you're right. Thank you. Will it change?
Like with the media, so like they run based on this idea of conforming these stereotypes of movements. But do you think, like take Maud as an example, that she completely goes against the whole stereotype of like this Miley Cyrus talking about?
Yeah, I know.
And so, but like usually artists like this, like they have those strong lights, but then they're overpowered by.
Apparently what they're saying is that we as consumers are going to take advertising in our own hands. We're going to be self-advertising, and it's going to knock down the corporations who are doing the advertising. So that we're going to take more power, more consciousness, and then people like this girl who is portraying her in a different way, more people are going to start to do that. So I think it will probably sway, and we're not going to be so passive. The problem is that we're very passive. We're not proactive. We don't realize it, we just absorb it in. I think you just have, and I think they're teaching kids to stand up to it, have a critical eye. It's very important because they're the ones who are going to change the future of advertising.
Thank you for that talk. It was amazing.
Oh gosh, I was really nervous.
Yeah, it was amazing. I've understood about the media's role in self-esteem for our daughters. I'm just starting to understand that my self-esteem, or lack of it, is going to have a big impact on them as well. And really that freaks me out, somewhere between my self-esteem and the media. I really wonder if there is hope. Can we really turn it around? Can we bring up our daughters more positively?
The fact that you can see that and connect with that, that is all you need to do. So that's the hope. You're aware of it, you're sensitive to it, you're vulnerable to it, and that from that is where there's change for you and your daughters. Because most people don't even see it, and they're blind to all of that. So the first step is to actually open your eyes and see where you're standing, and with that, the rest is easy. Congratulations. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, having brought a couple of young daughters and young ladies in our family, who are great girls, but the difference between, as I said, one of the big problems between when we were younger, and you talk about advertising and that sort of stuff, that these days is the reality programs on MTV, the Kardashians, things like that, which I try to convince my girls are unreality programs. They're not reality programs, you know?
They're totally scripted.
Yeah.
They are totally scripted.
It's a real issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're just really passive in receiving all this information, and no one's coming back and standing up to that, and it's going to happen. But you're absolutely right. All those reality shows are just absolutely morbid. It's like those gossip magazines. It's the same kind of thing. And I know people that work in the industry, and it's talk shows, reality TVs are completely written. It's not even real. It's completely scripted. But people don't. Human psychology, I don't know, it's a weird thing.
Yeah, just on that, now we have, with hard drives to control what you want to watch.
Yes.
We sit through all the ads, haven't seen ads for months.
Yay!
Yeah, the kids are still controlled by the media, but they have a choice of what they're going to watch more so today than they've ever had.
Yeah.
So what's going on? They're still influenced by it. And yet they can choose what they want to watch.
But because of the brain is not developed yet, so their critical eye is very vulnerable. Actually, they're sponges. They're supposed to take in everything. So we are a lot more rigid. We know what we make decisions completely differently. But an adolescent, it's not. So that's their destiny. They're going to have to resolve those issues. We resolved ours. They're going to come in and have to deal with all of that and that. Because we all have to strengthen ourselves, and there's always something negative that makes us strong. That generation is going to be doing some very interesting things because they're getting absorbed by all of this. Right? But it's tough. Yeah.
Christina, do you think was that part of the solution is the mother and daughter workshops, where we get children at 9 when they're learning, before they're trapped in all of these things, and get their mothers and daughters working together in self-esteem, and maybe they'll want something more for themselves. And that could be one of the things that we're trying to achieve here.
Absolutely. To open up that communication, because at the age of 9 or 10, the daughter is still really close to their mom, and then they go through puberty and they distance themselves. So it's really important during that period to have that open communication, to discuss all those things so that it's still open while we go through very difficult times.
Some people are just going to do it anyway. What will change the direction of their lives.
Yeah.
Christina, hi, I'm Christina Mike. So I kind of Googled this before I came because I hadn't really heard much, and I found that I quite like the mother and daughter thing, but I saw it like preferably for ages 8 to 13, and I was wondering, like teenagers. I mean, just from a perspective and being a bit of a teenager myself, obviously. With teenagers, I found that for me, probably the hardest time was high school, so especially probably like 15 kind of upwards, because you're more aware. Like, I don't know if it's just maybe me and the way I was brought up, but I definitely found that at a younger age, you're a lot less aware of what the media has to do with the advertising, what people say, and I was always brought up to have a thick skin. But high school, with the whole, you have a lot more people, and you're kind of a lot more willing to give in to people's opinions. And so I was wondering if there's anything you do with teenager girls, or teenagers.
Really good point. Well, the mother-daughter, the best time to work on a mother-daughter relationship is between 18, before 13. Yeah. Once you're going through puberty, the whole purpose of your process is to separate from your mom. So that's why you don't create. There's a dialogue. There's a guy that helps with dialoguing and having discussions. But it's a time where you separate from mom and you connect with your peer groups, which is very challenging. So right there, what you need is good mentors, like a big sister or an aunt or somebody that you feel connected with that can help you, or teachers or youth leaders and things like that. And there's a lot of material to, in the school system is where you can get, that's hopefully where you can get help and counseling and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a shift, and therefore, there's a separation, a natural separation between mom and daughter.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
So
I need a drink.
Christina was great. Thank you, Christina.
Thanks very much.
I'd like to invite
Who would want to follow Christina? But I just thought I'd say, my husband and I have been looking for furniture for the last 2 weeks, and so we sort of looked at the brochures, and then we looked online, and finally decided that we'd make the trek to this particular shop where the furniture looked really lovely. Probably wondering what furniture has got to do with Christina. However, some years ago when I first met Penny, and she told me she had met Christina, and I said, oh yeah, that sounded good, yeah, all good. And then a little later I saw the DVD, and I thought, that's pretty nice, that sounds like good work. But I have to say, nothing compares to actually hearing you, Christina.
Oh God.
So thank you very much. Thank you for sharing what you have with us. Thank you for sharing your personal journey with us. And I think that was important and touched everybody. After you spoke, it was like this pin drop silence. I think everybody had connected, the vulnerable side and everything with you so much because you spoke from your heart and you explained your journey, and that takes
take something special, you know? You didn't just, like you said, throw numbers at us. So I think I didn't know for sure what was going to be happening, but I was so touched I didn't know what to say. And then I'm thinking, oh, now I have to get up and say thank you, because I'm even more nervous. But thank you so much. I think that we should all take a moment to just sort of think what it is that we're taking from this wonderful discussion, from what you shared with us. It almost feels for me that we could sort of bottle something, some thoughts of what was discussed today, and then open it at leisure when we're feeling we need to get a little pep talk, pep to ourselves, so that we can always have a little bit of you, Christina. So even though you will be leaving, remember that you're leaving some of you here with us. So thank you again.
Thanks very much.
Now I'd like to welcome Ayan Syed up to the mic. Ayan is our next speaker, and it's just a short speech because Ayan has got so much to tell you. She's so passionate about the DVD, so I'm just going to let her have a few words, and then hopefully you'll all go home and buy one on the way home.
My name is Ayan, and I work with young girls aged between 15 to 24, and they're mostly from refugee and refugee-like backgrounds. There are a lot of girls that have lost a lot of themselves, coming from places of war, and coming from a society where a woman's voice is not heard, where women are second-class citizens almost. And after coming to Christina's first conference that you talked at in 2009, I purchased the DVD, and we use the DVD as the first point of starting the conversation about who we are as individuals and who we are in this society that we live in. As we almost live in two worlds. We come from a culture, and we're expected to behave in that way, and then we're expected to be Kiwis and live the Kiwi lifestyle as well. So a lot of the girls I work with are torn between these two worlds and trying to figure who they are. And yeah, the DVD was our first point of conversation. So we put it on and we talk about it, and we talk about who we are in this society, and it's been such a great resource for us. Yeah, so the DVD is $10. I'd like you to buy it because it is honestly probably one of the most wonderful resources and a really good way for us to actually start the conversation of who we are as women, and sort of identifying self-esteem and what we are, I guess. Yeah, thank you.
So, DVD. Thank you very much. Now, what I'd also like to do, we have a number of our trustees here and a number of our facilitators and helpers. I'd just like them to stand up on behalf of I'm saying this on behalf of Penny, because we'd just like to thank them. And if you could just show a thank you by giving them a clap, that would be much appreciated. Other members too that unfortunately weren't able to make tonight, but they are very involved in the whole organisation. So now basically the Liberty of Being Me is a charitable organisation that needs ongoing support to keep this worthwhile project going and growing. And there are the variety of ways that we can all help. And we're always looking for volunteers for various things to help with workshop as facilitators. And if you in any way can help with resources, with us running these workshops, because we do have to find funds to run the workshops, and there is various ways if you have access to even catering or different materials and resources that can help with the workshop, they would always be very much appreciated. Then of course there's the donation. We do have some wonderful buckets down there that Michelle has made up, and they look so pretty. So if you have any coins, you want to pop in on the way out. But you'll notice in our little brochure here, so please take these home, show them around to family, friends, look at the website, because there is an awful lot of information on there that you'll probably, once you have a little bit of time to digest tonight's event, you can have a look and see if there's something on there that is good for you, either by way of mother and daughter workshop, or we also have cooking and friendship workshops. So please have a look at those, and if anything interests you or you feel would interest one of your friends or colleagues, get them to contact us through the website. There's also a little donation slip. Now once again, this is being a charitable organisation, Lee would like to stand up. Lee does all the accounting tirelessly for the organisation. Penny's Lee, and he works really hard to make the money stretch the best way possible. And so once again, there's various ways of supporting the organisation. It could be through work. You might have colleagues that are looking for a way to donate. So have a look at that and help us in whatever way you can. So I really appreciate that. Now tonight, I just thought I'd share with you, it's also another special event, and Lee and Penny, it's their 20th anniversary today. So I think we're very fortunate to have them share this wonderful evening with us. So once again, look, thank you all so much for attending tonight. It's been a big responsibility for Penny and Lee, and now she's had an amazing team around her, and there's a few of us have only just added on to it of recent, and I think we're growing and growing. And it's very exciting, and I'm very pleased and thrilled to be part of it. So please seriously consider how you can help, how you can let people know in the community that is out here, that we are there to help mums and daughters. It will extend to dads and sons in the future. When, as they say, we get our knitting right, we'll get it right with the mums and daughters, because after all, let's face it, now the ladies do look after the household. So thank you all very much, and I'd like you to give another round of applause for Christina and
I just thought before we go, I'd just share with you that bell came from my mum's school, so that's very special.
Thank you all of you very much, and I'd like to give a round of applause to Brenda for the great job. Who has recorded this tonight, so we will have this video and Christina's presentation, so I'm sure that will be useful for a lot of you. Now just to follow on from the DVD, just remember if you purchase tonight, we have Christina here who could sign, would you, Christina? So you can get a personally signed copy. Okay? Great, thank you. We've got to make the most of this. And I just want to add,
I want to be back next year. I want to live here.
One more thing, just to give you a bit of insight into the mother-daughter workshop. It's just an amazing 3 hours of awareness. And the lovely lady, I didn't see because I was sitting here, who asked about what can we do, and Christina says the fact that you're aware, you're right on track. And you will see that in the workshop, and it's all about awareness. We're not imposing anything, it's just awareness, and beautiful things happen. So, if anybody knows of any mums and daughters who in the age group would love to share with us, we'd love to hear about you. And we're also very much looking for hosts to host in the communities that would help us get the mums and daughters to sit on the seats and share with us. Because we are learning every day with it. It's about sharing the learning together. So thank you again, all of you, for coming. And there's still some food if you'd like to carry on and chat for a while. And the DVDs are $10. Thank you.